This Caribbean News Desk, I'm Dennis Chabrol. First, the headlines. The Guyana Public Service Union threatens industrial action for higher wages and salaries. One person is killed and 10 others injured in an air crash on the Bahamas. St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister on an endorsement campaign of Labour parties across the Caribbean. Grenada gets Korean funds for a solar energy project, and Brazil breaks up a money laundering and drug trafficking ring. Details coming up.
We are one Caribbean, one people, one nation. Facing the same destiny, so separated we are. As one, let's come together. One market economy. Caribbean is how it should be. Let's support carry on for Caribbean unity. It takes you. It takes me for Caribbean unity.
The Guyana Public Service Union, or GPSU, in Manila gave President Donald Ramotar 48 hours to make good on his promise to begin negotiations for a higher pay packet for this year. Union President Patrick Yard says that while he will not discourage workers from taking the 5 to 8% salary increase retroactive to January 2014, he wants government instead to pay an 8% across the board to all public servants. Mr. Yard also adds that 8% should be considered an interim payout pending the outcome of negotiations. It is now 13 years since the Public Service Union has been threatening massive industrial action in response to unilateral retroactive pay increases rather than as a result of negotiations. The union boss says that's because union members are not keen on disrupting key operations like ferry, customs, health care and air traffic control services like they had done during a 57-day strike back in 1999. The Public Service Union president concedes that workers' turnout to strike calls has been poor because they will lose pay.
No, not that they're not willing. Not they're not willing, but because of their fragile circumstances. And we're putting things in place to deal with that. They are prepared to, but they're fragile circumstances, and we have not been pressing them.
What are fragile circumstances?
Economic circumstances, because when you take industrial action full-time, you do not get paid. Right? That is the main factor.
Mr. Yard, who has been the president of the Guyana Public Service Union for the past 20 years, has shrugged off questions about whether he still possesses the credibility and charisma to motivate public servants to take strike action. One person was killed Tuesday when a small aircraft crashed in the Atlantic Ocean waters near Nassau International Airport in the Bahamas. 10 other people aboard the plane survived. Delvin Major of the Bahamas Flight Standards Inspectorate said that the aircraft departed around 8 a.m. from an airport in Governor's Harbour on Eleuthera Island, and it lost power some 550 feet before reaching the Nassau coast. The 10 survivors, some of them with minor injuries, were transported to 2 hospitals in Nassau. The injured include 4 Bahamians and 6 Americans. Major was unable to provide the name of the man who was killed. Authorities continue to investigate the causes of the plane crash. President Donald Ramotar is at the weekend expected to announce the way forward out of the political crisis that is facing Guyana. He suspended or prorogued Parliament on November 10, the same day that the opposition-controlled National Assembly had planned to debate and approve a no-confidence motion in his government. Now that opposition leader David Granger has informed the president in writing, unless the suspension of Parliament is lifted, there will be no talks. The Guyanese leader says that he'll be making his next move known at the weekend. The president has already said that he would not be lifting the suspension and proroguing the Parliament again. Instead, he has said that he would call general elections ahead of the 2016 constitutional deadline. The opposition had planned to pass a no-confidence motion in the government over its alleged spending of monies from the Consolidated Fund without the required approval. Other concerns include the president's refusal to assent to bills that have been introduced and passed by the opposition. St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister Dr. Denzel Douglas, himself embattled by several no-confidence motions that are yet to be debated by his National Assembly, has endorsed two incumbent parties in the Caribbean that are going to the polls. Addressing the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party's conference on Sunday, Dr. Douglas said that the incumbent Dominican Labour Party would again win elections on December 8, in keeping with the ongoing trend of Labour parties being in power in the region.
There are important challenges to be faced, and it has been the historic responsibility of Labour parties throughout our region to face the challenges that have confronted our people and to chart the way forward. That is why the Antigua Labour Party was returned to office only a few months ago. That is why next week, Monday, the Dominican Labour Party will be returned to office. And that is why early next year, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party will be returned to office. And sometime in the future, the St. Lucia Labour Party will be returned to office as well.
St. Kitts and Nevis's Prime Minister Dr. Denzel Douglas, the House Speaker of that Twin Island Federation, has said that he was awaiting the outcome of various court cases before putting any of the no-confidence motions on the order paper. Dr. Douglas's St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party no longer commands a majority in the House after a number of his parliamentarians left his party. A former candidate of the ruling Dominican Labour Party has thrown his support behind the opposition United Workers' Party, or UWP. Less than 1 week before people go to the polls to elect a new government, Griffin St. Hilaire, who contested the 1995 elections for the DLP, believes the Skerrit-led administration has deceived the people and it should be voted out.
Let us put aside all our petty prejudices. Let us put aside whatever differences we may have had with the United Workers' Party in the past and rally behind this team to remove this government. Because it is not an easy task. It is not an easy task when you are dealing with fellas who are unscrupulous, fellas who have no principles, fellas who will do anything to remain in power. We have to bring down the full force of the people on them and put the brakes on them, ladies and gentlemen. Come December 8th, I am asking you, I am begging you, please support whichever candidate is going up in your constituency and vote this so that the future of our children may be better, so that we will have jobs.
St. Hilaire lives and works in the UN office in Geneva. Meantime, Anthony Astafan, a strong supporter, advocate and lawyer of the DLP, has called on DLP supporters to reject the UWP and its leadership and vote for the Roosevelt Skerrit and his DLP group on December 8.
That this election is not a game of dominoes. It's not a game of give me a chance, because I've been in the opposition in the wilderness for years. This is not about give me a chance. This is not about change is a must. This is about leadership. And as my t-shirt says, leadership is everything. And the future of our country. We need a prime minister, a man as prime minister, young people, who says what he means and means what he says. One day Linton tells us no social programs, because we are a nation of beggars, mendicants, prostitutes. The next day, he says he will create a social welfare state. And then last week he says all the social programs he vilified us for and vilified you for, he will now keep. We do not want a man as Prime Minister who will call you prostitutes.
South Korea is funding a renewable energy project in Grenada that will see a number of poor and vulnerable communities benefiting from a solar power project. Outgoing Foreign Minister Nicholas Steele told the House during Tuesday's debate on the 2014 national budget that a project would cost $100,000.
In 2014, we received $100,000 from the government and people of Korea. This grant is being used to purchase 7 off-grid solar energy units that will assist the poor and vulnerable in their households in rural Grenada. The project will be specifically targeted the single-parent households where the head of house is female.
He also said that the state-owned Grenada Electricity Corporation, or GRENLEC, would have to work with government in ensuring that the benefits of the project are fully realized by the residents being targeted.
But, Mr. Speaker, again, it is worthy to mention that under this current environment, we must seek permission from the electricity provider to help these most vulnerable people in a government-to-government project.
Nicholas Steele, Grenada's outgoing foreign minister. Caribbean countries are among those represented at the climate change talks being held in Peru. The region hopes that experts will find ways of mitigating the impact of rising sea levels, droughts, and floods that have been affecting several countries. Back in 2005, a massive flood affected thousands of people who live and work on Guyana's densely populated coastland. More recently, a flood destroyed a major road in Trinidad. Before that, St. Lucia and St. Vincent have suffered at the hands of floods caused by bad weather systems. Details in this report from the United Nations Radio's Stephanie Kutrix.
The climate change talks in Lima must write history, according to the Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. Cristiana Figueres spoke on Monday at the opening of the climate conference in Peru, which aims to draft an agreement to stop the rise of planet-warming greenhouse gases. During the next 2 weeks, thousands of leaders and climate experts will discuss what Ms. Figueres described as several critical lines of action. With 2014 likely to be the hottest year on record, many organizations at the conference, such as the World Wildlife Fund for Nature, are raising their concerns. Mariana Panuncio, who leads the fund's efforts on climate change in Latin America and the Caribbean, is worried about the effects of rising energy demands in the region.
It is projected that the energy demand in Latin America is going to double in the next 20 years. And the question is, how are we going to source that energy? Are we going to choose fossil fuels, or are we going to choose renewable energy?
Ms. Panuncio added that the answers to these questions need to be answered by those working to protect the environment before it becomes too late. Stephanie Kutrix, United Nations.
Brazilian federal police on Tuesday broke up an international drug trafficking and money laundering ring that smuggled drugs from Peru and Bolivia into Brazil for later shipment to Europe. Officials said more than 180 officers participated in Operation Denarius, serving 13 arrest warrants and 39 search warrants in 16 cities in Parana, São Paulo, Mato Grosso, Minas Gerais, Rondônia, and Mato Grosso do Sul states. Assets including ranches, houses, and businesses worth 60 million reals, or about $23 million were seized. That's according to federal police in a statement. Police said they seized a small plane and a helicopter in the operation. The federal police started the investigation in February when officers discovered a large cocaine shipment in Umaruma, a city in Parana state, which is on the border with Argentina and Paraguay.
We are 15 states with a common goal, a unified purpose to face the world, enriching lives, empowering people, creating a strong economic region. No matter where you're from, no hassle, just freedom. Whether business, school, or pleasure, we will benefit together. The CARICOM single market, good for you and me. The CARICOM single market, good for you and me. We CARICOM single market, good for you and me. Oh yeah.
And that's it for Caribbean News Desk for today, your Tuesday edition. Thanks for joining us. You can visit us on our website at caribnewsdesk.com. We are also on Twitter at twitter.com/demwaves. And we're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Carib News Desk. Thanks for joining us again. I'm Dennis Chabrol. Have a good evening.